All right, game six. So, what happened here is something that relates really well to games three through five. It was basically a roller coaster, but thankfully, the Fusion win 3-2 against the Los Angeles Valiant. But considering that their last place doesn't really leave me with a lot of good feelings, but a win's a win, at least. So, looking at the game map by map, just starting out, the Fusion came out on fire. They looked great. Valiant got rolled on map 1, and then in map 2, EQO and Carpe had a lot of smart plays, which was very reassuring to me that the Fusion were getting back on track, like how clutch they were very early in stage 1 of the season. But then they blow a lead. Basically, I go into panic mode because the worst team so far in the season has a good chance of winning. You see, when a lead is blown, I think that's worse than just losing the match altogether. And that's something that I felt as a sports fan for years. And with the Fusion, it's something that I felt very well tonight, especially with how the Valiant have just been coming up short in every single match and actually went 0-7 the stage 1 section of the season. So they're winless in the first fourth, which is pretty terrible. But anyway, with looking at the Fusion and how they performed against this team in maps 3 and 4, really had me worried. Now, map 3, they didn't look too terrible, but they made some key mistakes that caused them to really not do as well as what I would have hoped. And that's when I started to get worried. Even though they looked okay on map 3, they weren't as good as usual. And then map 4, just poor alt placement, poor positioning, just they choked it away. They choked away the lead, and that's when I got seriously worried. And they still had those problems later on in the match, but thankfully, map 5, they clutched it out, they won 3-2, and Neptuno got the MVP. And I'm very happy for that because I think the supports have been underrated so far this season. Both Boombox and Neptuno have been great for the team. Wouldn't know what I do without them. So with looking at these two people, I'm glad that they're on the team, and I'm glad Neptuno got MVP because he was really good at helping out his team members with healing, making sure that they stayed in the game. He was someone that came out clutch and is someone that is a key piece in the team. He was a cornerstone for the Fusion tonight. Without him, not sure how it would have gone. Even with EQO and Carpe making excellent plays, things were looking really dicey towards the middle of the entire match. Now, with looking at the standings right now, just at how things are going right now, the Fusion are 4th overall out of 20 teams. So they're in a pretty good position. The only 3 teams better than them right now are Toronto in 3rd, Vancouver in 2nd, and obviously the Excelsior in 1st, being 7-0. So with that lineup, it's not likely that the Fusion will beat them in the Stage 1 playoffs, but hey, at least they're one of the best teams in the league. So even during their downtimes, the Fusion seem to always be in contention for being one of the best teams in the league, no matter how good the Excelsior are, which seems like they're always good, and no matter how impressive Vancouver looks despite being an expansion team, the Fusion are holding their own, which is nice to see. Now, before going into the power rankings for teams and also for Fusion players, just looking at the Valiant, because they've been very puzzling to me about their performance. I wanted to look at them for a little bit. So, LA. At least out of the 2 LA teams, they've been the worst one this season, rather than the better one like last season. And it's very strange, because the only key piece that the LA Valiant lost was Soon, who's possibly my favorite player in the entire league, who's not part of the Fusion, and is known for his excellent Tracer play. One of the best Tracer mains in the world, actually. But he decided to go to the Paris Eternal, which is another expansion team, and even though the Valiant only lost 1 key piece, they've tanked. But here's the deal. I think they have a lot of potential to get better in the future, and here's why. Just looking at a couple stats real quick. They've only really lost 2 games that weren't that close, against the Gongju Charge and the Vancouver Titans. And the Gongju Charge are in a playoff hunt right now, so they're not too bad, and Vancouver is excellent. Really, really good. Fun team, too. So, with the Valiant, they're a team that looks absolutely awful on paper. And, of course, their record is terrible, and they do have a lot of issues. They just don't look nearly as good as last season. But I don't think the season is lost. Here's why. They did pretty well against the Fusion, as much as I hate to admit it, because they were close to beating them. And the Fusion are in the top 4 right now. And also with that, they barely lost to the Hangzhou Spark. They were toe-to-toe with the New York Excelsior before the Excelsior beat them in 5. And they also lost to Toronto 1-2. So looking at New York, the best team in the league, and Toronto, the third best team, the Valiant were this close to beating them in maps. They did a great job of keeping up with them. So, considering that, I don't think all hope is lost for the Valiant. I think they could have a rebound. I think they could have a late season push to end up in the postseason playoffs, but we'll see how it goes. I think that they have more potential than the Washington Justice, who are also winless right now, but they have 2 games in hand, and they could win one of them, but we'll see. I think the Valiant still have a lot of talent, but this season, they really need to figure out the chemistry. So, with looking at the playoff picture, the top 8 right now, Vancouver and New York, I think, are the best teams. Just absolutely. Toronto and Philly are pretty good, but New York and Vancouver, I think, are seriously deadly. New York was expected to be deadly because they have the most stacked roster in the league with so many excellent players from all around the world, especially South Korea, who is known for being the best country in the World Cup more often than not. And then Vancouver as well has been very impressive with their lineup and their chemistry, especially since their players, there are quite a few of them that used to play for alternate leagues. They already have that built-in chemistry. They already have that historic success, which is very helpful for the Vancouver Titans. So I think New York, Vancouver, very deadly. Third, we have Toronto, and then the Fusion right after that. And thankfully, my team's doing pretty well, but at the same time, still worrying with looking at those top 3 because Toronto's been impressive. But even still, I think they're looking pretty solid. Then we have Dallas, Atlanta, San Francisco, and Gwangju right after that. So that rounds out the top 8. Those are the 8 teams that should make the playoffs for Stage 1 if they started today. But I would not count out Boston and Seoul because they're 9th and 10th. They're really close to making it in because their record is 3-3. It's not bad. They need to win one more in order to actually have a shot of making it into the Stage 1 playoffs. But it seems like Philly will thankfully clinch it out for Stage 1. They have Paris Eternal next, which is their final match in the Stage 1 section of the season. And Paris has been mediocre so far, even with their talent. So hopefully the Fusion win. We'll see how that goes. And until next time, go Fusion, go.